Hello everyone, welcome to chapter 178 on my RLDR Custom Creations YouTube channel. It is the weekend edition again, and yeah, I know I'm standing by my countertop and drawer system that I'm so proud of, but today's video is not about that. So, if you want to see what I've got cooking today, all you need to do is stay tuned. Yeah, uh, I've had a number of videos that have taken place right in this area here. It's the far end of my shop. In the early days of my shop, I never got here because there was junk piled up as far as the eye could see. But this is all getting worked out the way it should be. And one of the keys to this area was this workbench with the drawers and the top and everything. So as I said in the previous video, the drawers I'm really happy with. That's coming along really nicely. I've been throwing things in them, and eventually I'll go through and organize everything. And I actually still have empty drawers, which is great. That's coming along wonderfully. But you'll notice where today's video is going to head. We're going to talk about sharpening again today, and more importantly, I'm going to be working on my surface grinder here that I use for sharpening plane irons and things like that. So, thickness planer blades and jointer blades and things like that. Plane irons I can do on this one. But anyway, you'll notice all my sharpening equipment is right here. And it fits. It's amazing. This was an unexpected benefit of this. I didn't think I'd get all my sharpening stuff on. I had a toolbox here that actually you can't see it, but it fit on top of that section that I put under my buffer that I had on here, and I thought, oh man, I've got so much stuff, I'm not going to be able to use my countertop properly. But I gave the toolbox to my son and emptied it out and put stuff in the drawers and other places. So I think once I consolidate all my stuff and gather it from the far reaches of the shop and put it in the drawer that it belongs in, this is going to clean up really nicely. But anyway, that's a future video. Today, I decided I was going to work on my surface grinder. And you may not even be aware of the problems I was having with it, because I used it once. I did a video where I sharpened my thickness planer blades, and it seemed to work okay. But one of the things that I do is when this thing is sitting in my shop, or any tool that I have, and I'm not quite sure on how it's working, or it's not working quite the way it should, or I think it should, I start playing with it. I'll look at it and see what's going on and try to figure out what's happening. And I noticed after I finished sharpening my thickness planer blades that it was really that they were only really contacting the stone at about 2 places. And I thought, okay, it's not true on top. I need to true the top of the stone. I didn't realize how bad it was until I took the guard off. Whoops, come on, I'm hooked on here. When I took this piece off that goes on top here, how bad this surface was. It's terrible. I was at coffee at a friend's house this morning, and I told him it was probably 1/8 of an inch out. That's maybe a bit of an exaggeration, but I think it was more than a 1/16. This thing had all kinds of ripples, not only on the edge, but it also tapered into the center. And I'm not sure how that happened. But anyway, I decided I needed a way to true up the top of this stone. So I took it out, and I probably did a number of things that really are incorrect. And I know that, and I ran the metal lathe to do this. That should give you a hint. And I'm sure the people that I talk to about my videos that are into the machining, they'll look at me and shake their head and say, "Oh, that was dumb." But you know what? I did it. I think it worked, and I'm going to show you what I did. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to true up the top of this wheel. So yeah, what I did is I took it off, and I decided the only thing I had that, like, just to hold something on here, I mean, then it pushes up and down, and that helps nothing. So yeah, I had my dresser, my one-way dressing stuff for that grinder there, and actually you can see I used the pin, but just to hold this on there doesn't work. And I couldn't really think of a good way to make a jig to run something across here. So that got me thinking, and the thing I thought of right away was the metal lathe. So I thought if I could chuck this thing in the metal lathe and run it across, that would be really, really good. So yeah, there are a few problems with that. And like I say, my friend Charles and I had discussed that at coffee this morning. And yeah, there are some issues with doing it the way I explained it to him. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I made so I could do it. And then I'm showing you the doing it on its own. So that's what we're going to see. And hang on, I'll be back. Well, back at the metal lathe. Um, this is what I came up with to true that wheel. Let's spin this out, and there it is. So I've got about three and a half inches of half-inch threaded rod. That's what I call it here in Canada anyway. I think on some other channels I've watched out of the US, they call it all thread. But it comes in, well, it comes in assorted lengths here, but I tend to buy 3-footers usually. That's the most common. So this end gets gripped by the lathe chuck, and I put a double nut here to make sure this didn't move. Not sure if that was necessary or not, but there is a problem with doing this. And I happen to stop at my friend Charles's place for coffee this morning, and we discussed this. And he brought it up, but I was aware of that happening too. Like when you have threads and you try to bolt something and you want it to run true, there's enough play or error, I'm not sure what it is, but it won't run true. And that happened to me right away. So what I did is I put this together. It didn't take long to do. And I put it in the lathe like this, and I put my grinding wheel on it, tightened everything up, and then turned the lathe on and watched it run. Well, to kind of gauge true, I realized that I could maybe watch the back side of the wheel, which has never been ground on or been touched. And I made an assumption that that was true, and that maybe isn't right. There again, if I made a mistake, tell me in the comments, because I'd like to learn as well. But anyway, the back of the wheel, the back side of the grinding wheel was oscillating. It was going back and forth. So as Charles had alerted me to, that was exactly, it was happening. So I tried a couple of other things to make it work, but it didn't seem to help. Finally, what I did is I put in one of my cutters, and not really the right one, but one that was handy. And I machined this face here. Now that isn't very much space. Like it would have been better if it was bigger, but I machined that flat and gave that a try. And that made a dramatic improvement as to how true that stone actually worked or ran. Now, I don't think it's perfect. You'll get to judge in the video that I shot. I've already shot that part, but we'll keep you in suspense a little bit longer. But it worked well enough that I went ahead with it. So what I did is I just locked that in, put the grinding wheel on with the face that I wanted to grind to this side, and then I tightened it up, put the nut on, tightened it up, just gave it a snug with a wrench, and we were done. So once I had that side figured out, then I needed to figure out the cutter. And the cutter I had already figured out beforehand. I own pretty much everything for sharpening that One Way Manufacturing here in Canada has produced. So I have their wheel dressing system, and in that wheel dressing system, there's a short little chunk. I believe it's about 3/8 shaft with a diamond sticking out the end, and you put that in there, jig, and you can surface the grinding wheels for turning, and that's how I did. That's what I used to turn for many years. So I took that out of its holder and I clamped it into the tool post here. And you had to be pretty careful because that's probably a 6-inch wheel. To be honest, I never measured it. But there isn't a lot of clearance over all this stuff when you're doing that. So if you try this, beware. So anyway, what I did, and I think I'm going to bring you in closer for this to show you this part. There we are. There's that little thing. Now it's pretty short. It's only really being grabbed by one of these locking screws. But it held. It was no problem. And there were times when I had to put it in the other area here because of clearance issues. But this seemed to work fairly well. And then I did it all manually. I could have used power feed, but I didn't trust myself at first. And I thought manually will work. So anyway, that's the cutting side of this. All right. And well, now that you've seen how I held the grinding stone in the chuck and how I adapted a cutter to make it happen, you've seen both sides of the equation. So now it's time to show you the cutting. So that's coming next. Well, once I got everything set up, this is how it worked. And see, I'll show you the setup. Well, I've shown it to you already. So let's turn the lathe on and let's take some of the abrasive off the face of the stone. It cranks really easy. I could use auto feed for this, but I didn't. That looks like a nice final pass. Let's take a look and see if I missed anything. It looks like it cut even all the way. It sure felt like it on the control. And I'm thinking that that's going to be good. Cool. That little one-way diamond for sharpening that, or for sharpening a stone, that thing worked really well. Cut this like nothing. Okay. Well, you saw me make the final pass, but the one thing that I'm not 100% sure of, this is not necessarily a good way of doing this, but in the time I had, it's all I could think of, so we're going to go with it. But I'm kind of happy with the trueness of this, so I'm going to turn the lathe on and bring you in right over here, and you can watch both sides and see what you think. That's not bad. The back side, I gotta get my finger in there. The back side even looks pretty good. The only bobble on it is, well, no, there's a little bit of a bobble in it. I should maybe surface the outside edge yet. I might do that. But it's looking pretty good. So anyway, who knows? Maybe this is going to work after all. Well, I changed the lathe around to mill this edge. I really have to be careful when I do this and check all my clearances, because there isn't a lot of space here, but it does go freely, so we're good. So I think I've got everything set, and I just need to take a light pass off. I'm not going to take a lot off here. So the cutter's there. Let's turn the lathe on. And I'll slowly I could be doing this with the auto feed, but I'm not. There we go. Okay, well, I think I'm going to go maybe one more pass here. There's still a little bit of black on the outside of the wheel. A very light pass. Trying to give you a view of that. Okay, we're going to head back, and then I'm going to call that good. The auto feed would make this a lot smoother. You can tell, those of you that are machinists by heart, I'm a real rookie on this machine. But I can still usually get done what I want to do. So, there we go. I think it's running fairly decently. Okay, that's going to be it. Well, I've reinstalled the stone back in the sharpening system itself, and the little bit of pink on there is I was just checking for the vibration with a pencil. I know that's a really sophisticated way of doing it, but I'm going to let you be the judge. This thing seems to spin quite nicely. Now I know it's hard to see this. Even the wheel before didn't look as bad as what it was. But everything seems to have settled down. There's no vibration in the machine itself anymore. And things look pretty good. So, is it perfect? No, it isn't. And I'm sure I'll find more problems if they exist when I start sharpening on it. But for right now, I think I'm okay with this. You know, we'll see what happens. But for today, this is good. Well, here it is. It's all back together. Put the guard on. Tighten everything up. I still need to do a bunch of cleanup on this thing, and that's going to come yet, but I've just been too busy to do it. But I am getting my machines, kind of doing the final bit to get machines ready to teach kids again. So, and I need to sharpen my jointer knives. That's going to be the next thing. But and I'll let you know how things work when I do that. Maybe I'll even show that to you. But from what I can see, even though maybe it's a somewhat of an unorthodox way to true a wheel, my initial comment on it is that it's going to be okay. Now, we'll see when I get using it. That'll be the real test. And maybe then it's another thing that I can get back to you on as to how this works. Not having a metal lathe would be a serious deterrent. But I'm sure if I wouldn't have had that, I would have figured out another way to do it. So, and you guys are all smart out there, so you guys can figure out ways to do this as well. But anyway, that's it for today's video. Have an awesome weekend. Those of you that are faithfully watching my channel, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Yeah, and all the rest of you that happen to catch us every once in a while, thank you. And it would be great if all the people who watch my videos who are not subscribed would subscribe. That would be wonderful. So with that in mind, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And have an awesome weekend, everybody. Take care out there.